Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning into the next episode of the Kiss Album Focus. I am Ray Hale.
And I'm Brian Curley. Thanks for joining us.
Now, last week, we did the first Kiss album, and that was a pretty cool video. This week, we're moving on to their next album, which is Hotter Than Hell.
I just have to say right at the top, I love this album. Love it.
It's good.
Love Hotter Than Hell. I mean, you'll see how much I love it when we get to the ranking part, but I love this
album. Hotter Than Hell is a very interesting album for me because there's things that I don't care for about the album, and we'll get into that too. And then there's things that I absolutely love about this album. But we'll get into that. That's a conversation for earlier. So Hotter Than Hell comes about because Kiss releases their first album and it went nowhere. It failed to chart hardly anywhere except in New Zealand.
God bless New Zealand.
God, man, the Kiwis, they know how to do it, right? So Kiss they get yanked off the road in August of '74, and they said, we need another album. We got to go ahead and get this recorded. So they recorded it in August of '74. It was released on October 22nd, 1974. And immediately there's problems. So the issues with this album is, on the Kiss side, is that they're not really writing a whole lot of songs on the road. They're living on the road, playing shows in new cities every single night. So to get together and start writing becomes a challenge. And we'll see, the more we do more of these videos, Kiss is basically going to the recording studio every 5 or 6 months and pumping out new materials. Now, Brian, we're both musicians. We've played in a number of different bands. To sit and write a song is challenging enough, and have it be a pretty decent song.
Not to mention, while you're spending so much time playing these, these tours, this big, number of shows, you're doing a show in a different city every night, every other night or whatever, you're focused on that. You're focused on your live performances and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to write good songs in the best of circumstances, but writing them when you have that, plus the pressure of, I'm sure the record label was like, we need to get another album out. We need to get singles. We need to get all this stuff. I mean, yeah, it's a challenge.
It's tough if you're a musician to sit and write a song. I forget who said it, but I read it somewhere. It says anybody can write a song, but can you write a good song? That's the challenge. And we've played in a number of different bands, so we know how that works. These guys, people don't understand, back in the 60s and 70s, this is what life as a working band was. You hit the road and you're in the recording studio every 6 months. I mean, even for a few years, Elton John is putting out 3 albums of original material every year.
And it's crazy. I mean, you just do not see that anymore.
No.
Even bands who do a fair amount of recording are putting out an album once every 4 years, 3 years or something. You're looking at a time where, hardworking bands were putting out 2 to 3 albums a year, maybe every 15 months or something. It's just crazy compared to how albums are released today.
And the bands don't have, Kiss isn't jumping on a plane in between shows. At this point in time, they're getting whatever shows they can get on whatever tour they can get. So they're playing a show and then getting in the car and driving 300 miles to the next show. That's a lot. Kiss at this time, basically up to some point in 78, I think it was, Kiss was either playing a show or they were in the recording studio. They had very little downtime. And that's what most artists at the time
working
did.
Hard. Yeah.
So, but this is another interesting album. Hotter Than Hell is recorded and it is released, and it does nothing.
Nothing at all.
It doesn't really do anything. In fact, it actually initially sold worse than their first album. This particular one, it peaked at 100 in the top 100 album chart.
Just made it.
And I'm sure it was probably for a week. Believe it or not, it looks like Japan, this album did the best. It went up to the 46th position on the album chart.
And speaking of Japan, I just want to throw in, since you mentioned Japan, I love the album cover to this album. Love it. I think it's one of my favorite album covers of their entire career. I think it's really cool. It's really creative. It really, plays into the whole kabuki style makeup and everything that they have and everything. And was that why it did better in Japan? Maybe.
You got to.
But
how many U.S. artists were releasing albums with Japanese lettering on it?
Not many. And, but I think the album cover is one of my favorites of theirs. Very cool album cover.
So when we get into this, it's crazy. This is an album, much like the next album, Dressed to Kill, is another one too, where it's kind of a hodgepodge of songs. Some were written on the spot. Some were pulled from the back catalog of songs that they had, and they just kind of tweaked it. But you're basically going to the recording studio, and somebody's got to have a song because now we're recording. So it was intense pressure at the time. And you know what? They did pretty damn well. First song on the album is one of my personal favorite Kiss songs, is a song from Paul Stanley called Got to Choose.
Love it. Great tune. Great way to open the album. Very, very cool song. Very it's reminiscent of some stuff on the first album while also having like a little bit of like a new, different kind of vibe to it to me. Like it's a little bit of the old and the new combined for me, that song. And really think it's another solid album opener for the second album in a row now with Strutter off the first album. And very cool song. Dig it.
Great song. Like I said, it's actually one of my favorite Kiss songs. Is to me, Got to Choose is most definitely a top 10 Kiss song for me. It's a great song. It's not one outside of the 70s that ultimately was played a lot. After once you start getting into the Destroyer tours and stuff, they're putting a lot of new material into the sets. So some songs have to go. This is a song that ends up getting dropped. But during this Hotter Than Hell period and going into the Dressed to Kill period, this song gets played a lot and ends up, it's resurrected around the time of the Kiss conventions and the MTV Unplugged special, because it really lends itself well to an acoustic guitar. But it also gets played a lot during the Kiss cruises, whether it's the acoustic show, the sail away shows, or it makes it into the live stage, one of the other nights. It's a song that just pops up most recently, and it's a great song. I mean, it really is fantastic. The next song on the album, I know, is going to be another favorite of you and mine. That sounded stupid. Of you and me.
Favorite of ours.
Of ours. There you go. Thanks, Brian.
Sure. No problem. I'm here for you.
The next song is Parasite.
Love it.
Sorry. I can argue all day long about this album. One of the things that I don't like about this album is sonically, there's a lot of challenges there. I just don't think it sounds great.
Yeah, no, that is the one caveat to me saying at the top of the show how much I really love the album is the production quality is definitely inferior to some of their other early albums. I don't know exactly what the story was with the production quality on that album and why it does sound so inferior, but it is unfortunate because it does have this sort of lo-fi kind of recorded in a basement or in a garage kind of sound that doesn't necessarily help the album. But Parasite is an awesome song.
Yeah.
One of my favorites on the album, one of my favorite Gene Simmons songs, period.
Mhm.
Absolutely love Parasite. And what a great way to start the album with that 1-2 punch of Got to Choose and Parasite. Just amazing.
They are great songs. And of all the things that I can talk the negatives about the sonics of the album, Parasite is one of those songs that almost the sonics of it make a great part of the song. It's weird. It's kind of weird to me, but I don't mind it for this song. It kind of lends itself pretty good. So one of the challenges that they had recording this album is they actually did this in Los Angeles this time around. And the recording studio that they used was changing equipment constantly, so that didn't help them during the recording process. But one of the things that they wanted to do, and again, this is 1974, it's not like you have Pro Tools and you can do all these amazing things. They wanted an album that sounded heavy, like a Sabbath record. So everything seems to be overly compressed and heavily overdriven.
Yeah, a lot of
overdrive. It just doesn't sound great. It really doesn't. And it kind of annoys me, actually. It just sometimes it's just too muddy. I mean, it's not that it sounds heavy, it sounds muddy.
And that's unfortunately my one hang up with the album. Is that sound quality is just not there. Especially when you compare to some of those other albums, some of those other early albums. It's a real shame because I feel like some of the songs are so good that they would be even better if they just had that really good, solid production quality.
Well, the one thing helping this album is there are plenty of great songs to go around. So the next one is Going Blind.
Love it. Love Going Blind. Another one of my favorite Gene Simmons songs. And to be honest, and this is kind of a trend with this album for me, is that this is an album where I feel like Gene and Paul and Peter, as we'll find out later, have really awesome shining moments on it. Where some of the later Kiss albums are very one-sided to me, where I really like the Paul stuff and I'm not as crazy about the Gene stuff, or vice versa, or whatever. Where this album is really Gene and Paul and Peter all getting really good songs and moments to shine. And Going Blind's just another great song from Gene. A real highlight on the Kiss Unplugged album later from the 90s for me. And actually a song that I just recently learned how to play on guitar.
Sweet.
Yeah, so I it's not the first Kiss song I learned, but it is the most recent one that I just started working on over the last week or so. And great tune.
Yeah, this really was one of those songs that was kind of forgotten about up until the convention tour heading into the Kiss Unplugged special. When Kiss performed it unplugged, it really breathed a lot of new life into the song. And it's a song that still gets played a lot during a lot of the VIP experience in their shows. When they do acoustic performances, this is always the song that comes back out. So while it rarely gets played live on a main stage on a tour, it's a song that is always floating around during the VIP experience and on the Kiss cruises.
It's a song too that, I mean, unfortunately, depending on how you look, a lot of Kiss's songs, if you know Kiss, a lot of Kiss's songs are written either about, sex or rock and roll or whatever. And Going Blind is a song that, has a little bit questionable subject matter, depending on your point of view.
I'm 93, you're 16. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
But
I mean, look, the song is basically about an old man's relationship with a young girl or an underage girl. So, I mean, it's the subject matter is, but, that's art too. It's risky, sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Provocative provocative type stuff. Like, I mean, I don't know, like, you know, Nothing to Lose on the first album, you know, which I'm not going to go into what it's about, but it's about something that is, you know, a provocative subject. And if you really looked into it or wanted to, you could Google what the song is actually about. And, you know, a lot of people probably don't know that, but.
Yeah, well, it's, let's just put it this way. I thought about the back door and you're good to go there. So you're right. It's kind of weird, but I think it's also important that, you know, this album was recorded in 1974. Well, absolutely. It's not a song that you could get away with today.
No, you're not putting that out in 2022. It's
not really. People would freak out about it, but in the 70s, I'm not saying it was okay.
No, but it was not looked at the same way as it's looked at today. I mean, we've evolved as a culture, as a species, and, you know, I mean, in evolution, you know, means certain things, and, you know, as we move forward, we start to see different things in different light. I mean, there was a time in the 50s and 60s where, you know, smoking cigarettes was considered, you know, that wasn't really dangerous to your health or anything. I mean, you see old movies and videos of doctors with a cigarette hanging out of their mouth examining someone. Can you imagine seeing that today?
No. In fact, if you tune into Netflix, they actually give a warning that smoking is in the episode or the movie.
Yeah, a lot of places do that today. Yeah.
But like I said, it's one of those songs. It's a weird song. Going Blind is. There isn't another song like it in the Kiss catalog. In fact, it actually originally comes from the Wicked Lester era of the band. Because like I said, some of these songs were new that they needed to write real quickly to record, or they had ideas in notebooks and things that they had jammed on before. So, you know, it's just one of those things. It's a cool little song. I dig it.
It's a pretty basic song too. Like it's pretty simple overall. I mean, it's basically a 5-chord song, and you know, most of the song is, you know, mostly the same it's 2 different progressions really, but it's the same 2 progressions basically repeated through the song, you know, built around that riff that happens often throughout the song, and that's really it. I mean, but it's well written. It's a good song.
Yep, I agree. Next song on the album is a fantastic song called Hotter Than Hell, title track.
Title track. And man, this song kicks some ass.
It does.
It really does. And this is, you know, back when we're in the first episode, we were talking about, you know, when I first got into Kiss, when you and I were kids. And I remember, you know, Dress to Kill, Hotter Than Hell, and the first album were like the 3 that, you know, you basically introduced me to, starting with Dress to Kill. And I think we went backwards: Dress to Kill, then Hotter Than Hell, and then Kiss. And Hotter Than Hell immediately was one of my favorites. I love that song. Very, very cool Paul Stanley song, and just a great tune.
Paul even admits it's, you know, you basically showed up at the recording studio and you're already paying for time and you don't have a song. So this one was written real quick. It's very much a tip of the hat or a rip off of All Right Now by Free. But it's a great song. It stuck around in sets for a while. It's been in and out over the years. Fantastic song. It's heavy.
Oh yeah, and it's built around that great riff. That is just a killer riff. One of my favorite riffs from, you know, early Kiss. Just really cool.
It's a fantastic song. The next one, closing out side A, is Let Me Go Rock and Roll. Now this song is actually cut way down from what you would see live, and it's more than twice as long. It's only 2 minutes and 14 seconds on the album, but live it's a much longer song, and it's just full of energy. This track, it's kind of the same way. It's just go. It's a sprint from the beginning, and it's fantastic. It's another great Gene song.
Great Gene song, and another example of, like, for me, like, Gene just like if we were just talking like Gene songs, like this might be my favorite Kiss album for Gene tunes. I mean, Gene is just killing it on this album. Every Gene song I'm in love with on this album, and Let Me Go Rock and Roll is no different. It was one of those things too where after I've been listening to Kiss for a while, and after, later on in a lot of their bootlegs and live shows and stuff, Rock and Roll All Night was like obviously the big closer of their sets. And, we'll get more into that in the Dress to Kill episode. But before that, it was like Let Me Go Rock and Roll, right? It was like a big like show closer. It was either a show closer or they sometimes put it up in like the third or fourth slot. But they used it as a show closer a lot too. And I got so sick of hearing Rock and Roll All Night because I just heard it so many times. I was so freaking sick of it that it was like I kind of wished in a lot of those set lists, a lot of those bootleg gigs and stuff that we had over the years and stuff. Like I kind of wish that I could pluck out Rock and Roll All Night, throw it away, and put Let Me Go Rock and Roll in its place.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I actually agree with that. I'm about to see when you're live at the show, Rock and Roll All Night is fantastic. Outside of that, I probably never listened to it because you've heard it so many times. I
haven't listened to that song on purpose. I mean, maybe if I was listening to the album and it came on, I didn't change it, but I haven't purposely listened to that song in probably 15 years.
Yeah. I mean, I can't sit there and can name one time where it was you know what? I want to listen to Rock and Roll All Night.
Yeah, no.
You hear it on the radio. When it's on the radio, I play it. I listen to it and it's fun
and stuff, but it's not, you're not headed for it because you just heard it so many times.
Yeah.
But Let Me Go, another great tune on this album.
Awesome song. Now, side B, this I love the songs on this album, but I am not a fan of the recording. So when you get to songs like Got to Choose, Parasite, Hotter Than Hell, Let Me Go, Rock and Roll, I'm most likely to hear it from another album, most likely a live album down the line. What shoots this album up in my rankings is this second side. The next song is All the Way. This is an extremely underrated Gene song.
Way underrated. This song. No Kiss fans that I talk to ever mention this song as being, a favorite or just a notable like Gene tune or whatever. All the Way is awesome. Great song, so underrated, and really kind of the thing that cements it for me that this may be my favorite album of Gene Simmons songs. Because when you add that in to Parasite and you add it in to Let Me Go and you add it into Going Blind, it's like, man, Gene is killing it on this album.
And it's funny, this is a song Kiss has brought it out. It was never performed live at the time, but it has popped out in some conventions and doing the Kiss cruises and stuff. They did play it on the Rock the Nation tour a few times. Unfortunately, in the last 10 years, there's a lot of people that are going to Kiss shows that have never seen Kiss before. They may not be the biggest fan of Kiss. It's not their favorite artist, but they know you have to go see a Kiss show. So it doesn't really go over well live with I don't want to say fair weather fans, but the casual fan. The hardcore fans love it. It is a great song. It rocks. It's got everything you want.
Great chorus, great sing-along chorus. I mean, it's just, that song is so underrated. So underrated.
It is so good. The next song is Watching You. It's a good classic Kiss song. Not one of my favorites, certainly not one of the worst. I love the version that's on Alive 3. I think it's fantastic. But it's another one of those really good core Kiss songs from the era that they were playing live all the time.
Yeah, I dig Watching You. I mean, I think of all the Gene songs on the album, it's my least favorite of all of them. But it's really only notable because of how much I like the other ones. Because I think Watching You is a solid song. Like, it's not, I don't think it's their best song on the album. I don't think it's, a great, wonderful, incredible song. But I think it's a solid Kiss song, a solid early Kiss song that, that I like.
Like I said, it probably wouldn't make the bottom third of the greatest Kiss songs, but it's like a middle of the road kind of a song for me.
Yeah, it's like middle of their catalog, I feel like, as far as quality.
Now, this next one is actually a big favorite of mine, written by Paul Stanley, but actually sung by Peter Criss. This one is Mainline.
Yep.
I love this song.
Great
song.
It
is fantastic.
It is a good song. And again, this was one that I came around on, actually, because as I mentioned in the last episode, I wasn't the biggest fan of Peter Criss vocally in the beginning when I first got into Kiss. So I tended a little bit to shy, other than Black Diamond, I tended to shy away a bit from the Peter Criss lead vocal songs. And as I got a little older and I started to like re-explore a lot of their catalog and, go back and re-listen to the stuff that I maybe passed on a little bit initially, I really realized how good some of Peter's songs are. And honestly, there's two examples on this album, and Mainline is definitely a really solid song. Very cool.
So this song is interesting because right around this time, I think if you're a Kiss fan, you'd have to know that the guys in the band didn't always get along. And I would think with all the different books and stuff that I read, while there were times where they certainly really liked each other, but there's also a lot of times where you're kind of, you respect what they're bringing to the table, but you don't really like that person a whole lot. And in this particular case, there's already cracks in the foundation of Kiss. This particular song was brought in by Paul. Paul was looking to sing it. And the story goes on this song is they brought it in and Peter Criss said, either I sing that song or I quit the band. I'm glad that's what they went with because I thought Peter's vocal style goes great with the song.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But you can see some of the behind the scenes turmoil is already brewing.
Yep.
And it actually starts back at this album. And there's going to be more of it, unfortunately, on this album.
Oh, yeah. A lot more as we go on.
But Mainline is a killer track. This is another song that never played live, but actually Eric Singer started to pick it up during some of the Kiss cruises lately over the last 10 years or so. And it's been really cool. So if you haven't seen it, I would go online, check it out, because Eric Singer is actually a great singer. That's weird.
Yeah, he actually is. Yeah, he's got a great voice.
Now the next one is, again, it's another cool song. We're talking Coming Home.
Coming Home. I love Coming Home. I love that song. I think it is a great Paul Stanley vocal, great Paul Stanley song. Overall, I think my favorite version of that song ever is the version from Unplugged.
Agreed.
In the 90s, which I adore. But really dig Coming Home. I think it's a really cool song. And honestly, it's it's in the top, it's up in the top half of the album for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great song. I think it sounds better as an acoustic song. They never played this live at the time, but when they started doing Kiss conventions and playing acoustic sets, Coming Home is always played.
This is one of the songs, actually, I think that is a good example of the production quality, like hurting the song, as opposed to what you were saying earlier about like not minding it as much with Parasite, and a couple of the other songs that it lends a grittier kind of feel. But with Coming Home, I think it's a detriment to it.
Yeah, it actually, listening to it off this album, it's actually kind of annoying because sonically it's not a great album and it gets very muddy And sometimes it's weird because sometimes it feels like there's no middle. There's all this high end and there's all this low end. And it's just like, it starts to drive me crazy.
Yeah.
I agree with you. It definitely hurts itself on this album, but it's still a really good song. And actually, it's a pretty easy song to learn on the acoustic. Should anybody out there looking to play a Kiss song want to start, a new guitar player, start with this song. It's actually pretty cool. And it's a fun song to strum along with.
Yeah, it is. It's a fun song to play. I know the song myself. This is one of the earlier ones I learned. And, I think I haven't played it in a while, but I think if I remember, it's just, most of the songs basically G, C, and D. And
yeah, pretty much.
It's the strum on it is really fun. And yeah, it's just a fun song to play.
It's not a difficult song to sing. Especially if you're playing with other people. It doesn't have it's not like a lot of Kiss songs have difficult harmonies anyway, but it's a cool little group song just to warm up and get going. I love it. I love the song, especially the acoustic version.
Mm-hmm.
And the last song, we actually go out with a huge bang here. It's Strange Ways, another huge Peter Criss vocal, and probably the heaviest song in the Kiss catalog.
And honestly, probably, I mean, I have to say Black Diamond is probably my favorite Peter Criss, lead vocal song. Mm-hmm. But Strange Ways is probably second.
Yeah.
Really like Strange Ways. It's a song, like you said, it's actually pretty heavy, and it's really Peter Criss' voice sounds great on it. Mm-hmm. It is a killer song.
It's fantastic.
It's 2 albums in a row too, where, the first 2 albums where like the album ends with a Peter Criss vocal, mm-hmm. Which is just ironic considering, he's really not considered one of the main singers. I mean, he does sing, but he's not, it's Gene and Paul are the main lead vocalists.
Gene and Paul, they take a lot of heat, and some of it is well-deserved.
A little bit, yeah.
That being said, it really seems like from all the different stuff that I've read that, they really thought of this. They really wanted this to be like a heavy Beatles. They liked having multiple singers. It allowed them to do a number of different things, and one of them didn't have to carry the load. And it was nice to spread it out. And early on, with Kiss, you had 3 different guys singing, all had 3 different kinds of voices.
Oh yeah.
It presented a very interesting dynamic, and I thought it was great.
I agree. Yeah, I love that about Kiss. Just like I love it about the Beatles. Mm-hmm. Not to derail for a second, but that was honestly one of the things I liked the most growing up and listening to and loving the Beatles, was that you had these voices that, they sounded different and they were different types of singers, but they blended so nicely together. Mm-hmm. John and Paul's voices just are like butter together. Mm-hmm. And, and in Kiss, you get a little bit of that too, because you have these different voices. And, Kiss wasn't doing, of course, the kinds of, complicated harmonies and stuff that the Beatles were, but you get this like smorgasbord of vocals, mm-hmm. Where one song might have this real gruff sound to the vocal. The next one might have this like, higher range, smoother sound. And then you have one that's kind of in between, kind of in the middle and stuff. And yeah, I've always thought that about Kiss.
So with this album, Hotter Than Hell basically had one single, and Let Me Go Rock and Roll was released as the single, and it went nowhere.
Which is crazy. Just as a quick aside too, it's crazy that Hotter Than Hell, which is not only their second album, but in my opinion, one of their best albums, it only had one single that went nowhere, which is just crazy to me.
Because, and I think a lot of this has to do, and part of the reason why Let Me Go Rock and Roll didn't chart very well is it wasn't distributed as a single very well. The quantities that were actually shipped were very low because they found out pretty quickly that Hotter Than Hell was selling worse than the previous album. So in fact, we'll know here the next episode will be about Dress to Kill. as quickly as they hit the road again, they're going to have to come off the road again to record another album, because getting product on the shelf is going to be a big deal. But it's also important to note, at this point in time, Kiss is playing so many shows with so many acts. They can't get anything out of Warner Brothers and the radio stations as far as airplay. But there's really a grassroots thing that is happening here. People are going to see artists like JoJo Gunn and are being blown away by the opening act. So that's causing people to leave the concerts and start to buy some of these records. Yep, and by the time we get to Dress to Kill, certainly in certain areas of the country, Kiss is already developing a really strong following and headlining some concerts just from ticket sales. Because the chart success isn't happening, record sales isn't happening, it's all word of mouth.
Yeah, and this is where the word of mouth, I think, is really kind of starting. You know, it's like hotter than hell, it's not selling, but Kiss is playing every show they can get their hands on. Like you said, some opening act shows, they're doing some small headlining club shows, gig, you know, bar shows or whatever at that point. I mean, clubs really, I guess, small, you know, 800-seater clubs or something. But, you know, it's that word of mouth that really starts spreading at that time, and people telling their friends and family or whatever, hey, you know, I saw this band the other night and, you know, the music is cool, but man, they really kicked ass. Like the show was crazy. They had all this makeup and, you know, there's blood and, you know, it's that kind of stuff is just starting to spread now.
So for the first album early on, they were able to get a couple of television spots, an ABC in concert and, you know, a couple other, a Mike Douglas show, which was a big deal. But very quickly, almost everybody with any sort of power and stroke in music and TV completely dismissed Kiss. They didn't get it and were not going to open any doors for them. And Kiss is successful today because they didn't get any of that. They had to work hard for it, and the fans made it. By the time we start getting into Dress to Kill, it's Kiss fans that are demanding the radio stations to play their music. So it's fascinating to me. This doesn't happen very often in music.
No, not at all. I mean, this is a band made by the fans. You know, without the fans, you know, getting their voice out there and getting their passion behind this band goes nowhere without that. No, I mean, and you could argue, yeah, I mean, all bands need their fans to succeed and everything, but with Kiss, it was solely on the fans, at least initially, because as you pointed out, like they were getting no love from critics. You know, the albums weren't selling, but people were starting to see their shows and starting to get, you know, really wanting to talk about it because they were really good shows.
Look, no matter how many phone calls that their management and record label made, they weren't getting a spot on the Tonight Show. They weren't getting national spots anywhere on anything. The only thing they ended up ultimately getting right around this time is they ended up, actually, I think it's Dress to Kill era, more likely, a spot on, what was it? In Concert. It was In Concert or Midnight Special, which was a late night music variety where they just played live stuff from various acts. This was the only exposure you got for the band, and they suffered for it for a while because people didn't get it. They didn't understand what was happening here. The makeup was a big turnoff.
Yeah, I mean, they were doing something new, you know. I mean, it was real, like, kind of, you know, breakthrough stuff. I mean, you had, you know, guys like Alice Cooper starting out and you know, wearing stage makeup and having kind of an elaborate show, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't at all commonplace. I mean, there wasn't a lot of this stuff going on. This is, you know, kind of when all this stuff started to really seep into the mainstream.
Yeah, I mean, they were considered garbage rock for quite some time. You know, at the time, you got to think of like the big artists is the Eagles, and I love the Eagles, but Kiss is not a serious musician songwriting kind of band.
No,
They're a
no.
spectacle.
Yeah, absolutely. So
So
where do you rank Hotter Than Hell on your list?
So Hotter Than Hell was kind of interesting
Mhm.
because you know, I told you what the 35 albums we were going to go through. That set more or less the second half of the album really jumps up a lot, but I typically don't enjoy listening to the album so much because of the sonic issues. But Hotter Than Hell to me made my list at number 18.
All right, all right. So as I said in the last video, I I ranked the studio albums separately from everything that's not a studio album. So of the 20 studio albums, I had ranked the first album at number 6. I actually ranked Hotter Than Hell at number 3.
Wow.
Um, I and honestly, if it wasn't for the sound quality, it might even be number 1 for me.
Mhm.
I love the songs on Hotter Than Hell. I am a huge fan. There's not a single song I don't like on it. It is really high up there for me, and the only thing that holds it back at all is the production quality. I think if that album sounded as good as, say, Love Gun or Rock and Roll Over, that album could be number 2 or even number 1 for me. So for now, I'll rank it as of the 20 studio albums at number 3.
Yeah, this album for me, like I said, I do like it. The sonics annoy me, but what does hurt the album is the same thing that hurts the first album, is songs like Got to Choose and Parasite and a couple of
Yeah,
others, Hotter Than
Let Me
Hell.
Go and Watching You. Yeah,
They're better versions on a live album that we'll see down the road. But the other half of the album are songs that, despite the production values of the album, the songs are too good to ignore.
yeah, and that's what gets it for me. That's what drives it so high for me, is that every song is so good. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the sound quality sucks, but
Mm-hmm.
the songs are so good. So what's your favorite song on the album? Do you
Uh,
have a favorite?
so overall, my favorite song on this album is Got to Choose.
Nice.
I absolutely love the song, especially the acoustic version. The version that's on a live is also fantastic too. I I don't hate it on this album. It's just, the sonics are hard to get past. My least favorite song on the album is probably Watching You.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, my favorite on the album, I think it's an honorable mention to the title track,
Mm-hmm.
and to God to Choose, because I think both are outstanding Paul songs. But for me, I'm gonna have to go Parasite as my favorite on the album, and my least favorite, same as you, is gonna be Watching You, but it is not at all because I dislike Watching You.
If
It's
Watching You is the
solely,
worst song on the album, that's a good album.
yeah, that's a good album, is my point. Like, and then that's why, like, it's just like every song on the album is so good. And when my least favorite song on the album is a song that I really like,
Mm-hmm.
that's that's a good album.
Yeah, I mean, so right now, the way it looks, Kiss immediately goes into the recording studio, pumps out this album. It literally takes them like 2 weeks to record, just like the first album. And they immediately start hitting the road again. And once the album drops, new songs start making their way in the set. So at this point in time, they're climbing up the bill. They're no longer the third act on the bill. They're the second act, or the right under the main
Headliner, yeah.
yeah, the headliner. Average set list for this tour is Deuce, Strutter, Hotter Than Hell, Got to Choose, Firehouse, Nothing to Lose, Watching You, Parasite, 100,000 Years, Black Diamond, Let Me Go, Rock and Roll, and Cold Gin.
Oh, what an amazing set list. What an
Dude,
amazing set list.
I look at that set list and I go, you don't have Rock and Roll All Night. You don't have Detroit Rock City. You don't have all these big songs, Love Gun, Shout It Out Loud. There's no Beth. There's no God Gave Rock and Roll to all these big songs that come later. And that's still a killer show.
Absolutely.
Like that show has
yeah.
no filler.
I mean, it's weird now looking at, their live sets that would come later to have Cole Gin as the closer.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would switch that with Black Diamonds, but I mean, but other than that, I mean, what a killer set.
I mean, it's like that. It would be a great time to go see a Kiss show because, like I said, there's no filler. I mean, how many concerts, Brian, have you been to? And we've both been to several outside of Kiss.
Oh, yeah.
There's always that 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 songs where you go,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
That.
I mean, almost every concert I've been to, has had, a little bit of filler here or there.
Mm-hmm.
But a set list like that is just, I mean, it's a cliche, but it's all killer, no filler. I mean, it's
there's
incredible
no ballads.
start to finish.
There's no ballads. There's no slow songs. It's just rock and roll start to finish.
Yeah, it's just one big rock and roll party. The whole thing. I mean, and I'm going to steal that right from Paul's mouth.
That was fantastic.
It's what Alive 1, right? That he says that. But stealing that right from him. But that's exactly what it is. Just one big rock and roll party.
Mm-hmm.
Then it kicks ass.
Well, I can't think of a better way to close out this episode. So, Hotter Than Hell, another great album. I would encourage anybody to check it out. Anybody watching the video, let us know how you rank us. Tell us what you think about our ranking and how we were discussing the album. Let us know. Curious to hear your thoughts. Outside of that, Brian, you got anything you want to say?
No, that's it for now. Please stay tuned, and we'll be doing Dress to Kill next.
Sweet. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Deuce.